Aloha everybody, we're back again for story time with Tutu. Today we're going to be reading Tales from the Night Rainbow, the second part to part one. This is by Tutu, Cynthia Deleon, and you guys enjoy.
Aloha. I'm back again to read another episode or chapter in our book, The Tales of the Night Rainbow. And it's titled Na Ali'i, which means the chiefs. And here's a picture of it. The artist did some really nice sketches. So I'll get started. Na Ali'i, the chiefs. To us, they were invaders. Pa'au had gone back to Tairi and gathered thousands of people to come to Hawaii and take over the land. The men were tall, fierce warriors. They did not believe in the force of light, only in the force of the closed fist, in mighty armies that killed, took, and plundered. The people of Lanai were the first to see them approaching. They said the red malo of the invaders could be seen from horizon to horizon, making the sea itself take on a red hue. Soon, the sea did turn red with the blood of our people as thousands were slaughtered and enslaved. The native population that could made for a run for Kauai, where they would be safe. You had to be well schooled in the tides of Kauai to get ashore safely. Many of the people who did not have time to get to the boats in time hid in mountain caves. The people who were caught were used as fish bait and human sacrifices, and their bones were used to decorate the tiki statues of the Tahitian gods. The Tahitians who became the rulers of our islands called themselves Na'ali'i, the rulers or chiefs, and they called our people Manahune, small power, because they thought we were a joke. In fact, the people who lived here before the Ali'i came were much smaller than these warriors and had no knowledge of how to use a spear, of club, or any manner of war weapon. The early people had used their minds to cooperate with the world and had no war leaders or chiefs to lead them into battle. They were fishermen and farmers. They shared all they grew and caught with the community. To be a warrior, you must be trained in the ways of war. No one in our islands had such training at that time. Since the Tahitians did not consider mind power to be power at all, the people were, as they said, Manahune, small power. Some of the people who were living in the islands at the time were the descendants of Menehune, a man who has 16 sons. The two names merged, and all people who were here before the Tahitians took over our islands were called the Menehune. In truth, there were many different lines of families before the Tahitians. As a group, they called themselves the Mu, and the islands the Mu also. Individually, family groups were known by their own name. On Kauai, there were the Kamakaupo and the Navao. On Oahu, the La'i and Pa'i and Kea families. On Maui, there were the Ahu and the I families, as well as many La'i family members. Some families were just known by their Amakua and nothing else. The people of Moloka'i, who were my ancestors, called themselves Kapo'e'au Hiva, the light carriers, or the people who tended the sacred light. Other families of Moloka'i had names to do with the light or the rainbow. Legends and stories of the Menehune's great deeds came about because the Ali'i would give orders when they wanted a fish pond built, or a temple, or a ditch, and allowed a very short time for it to be done. The ali'i would order the maoli natives to do the job and go off laughing. If the work was not accomplished in the given time, all the people of that place would be slaughtered. When such orders were given, the maoli or pre-ali'i came out of hiding, down from the mountain, from the caves, and they worked together as one person to accomplish the task. These jobs were done at night because during the day, other work had to be done. When enough people were not available on one island, fireballs were sent up as a signal to the ancient ones on other islands that help was needed. When the first rays of dawn began to show on the day the project was to be completed, the boats were already gone. The people had returned to their caves and mountains. There was no sign of anyone. Since the ali'i knew it was not possible for the people of that certain site to do the work by themselves, they thought the ghosts of their ancestors helped them. When they happened to see or hear people coming down from the mountains for such a project, they hid, for the burial places of the ancient ones were in the mountains. This is how the stories of the night marchers began. In those days, the ones who marched were flesh and blood. They would not bow to the rule of the bloodthirsty ali'i, so they hid away, waiting for a time when the land would be at peace again. Some families lived several generations in the mountains before they knew things would not change back to the old ways ever again. The ali'i people ruled over the system of chiefs. War was accepted as way of life. They thought everything could be taken by force. They were always fighting. Father fought son. They had no peace in their hearts. And as it is with wars, no one won. For with wars, all lose. On Moloka'i, we were not bothered as much as people on other islands, but we had our time of trial also. The ali'i feared the people who lived on Moloka'i, for they thought all who lived there had great personal power. The reason for this belief was that Pa'au's warriors came to invade Moloka'i's shores. They found the people standing there waiting for them. They did not run. They stood together as a silent army. No feasts were raised. When the warriors began to beach their boats, the chanting began. It began small and became a mighty roar. The warriors threw their spears, but they fell short of hitting anyone. Men trying to come onto the beach were falling back into the surf, choking, unable to breathe. They did not invade Moloka'i's shores at that time. They called Moloka'i Pule O'o, powerful prayer, and this was brought back into being many times through the centuries after that. In time, there was mixing of blood. The lines that had more of the pre-ali'i blood were called sacred, and the chiefs who had such blood were called the sacred chiefs. They came to conquer our islands, and in many ways were conquered themselves. They took many of our chants as their own. They took many of our teachings as our parables. Many ali'i came to Moloka'i and walked among our people as friends or family. They gave us no orders. Some of the children were raised by the learned ones on Moloka'i, so they would know all things. Some of these men grew to be great chiefs. Some still saw more glory in battle than in awareness and love, and their bodies died in battle, for they had much to learn. Although some returned to their warring ways, others did not. To us, they were invaders. They took our women and our heiau. They felt free to walk among us and take our food or whatever they desired. They gave us orders and called us commoners. We were not commoners. We were the ancient ones who had lived here many generations before they invaded our shores with their red malo. They came to conquer with raised fists and war clubs. Many would put them down and pick up a simple bowl of light. This is the end of this second chapter in the book. I just want to shed, and I'm going to stop here. I just want to shed that doing this isn't easy because I'm reading it for the first time each time that I read a chapter. However, I guess, and so there are errors, but I listening to it while I read and enjoying it. And I hope you are too. Aloha and mahalo.